Hi everyone, my name is Kirby Piazza, and this is my older adult oral video presentation for the class Social Work 501, Human Behavior and Social Environment. For this project, I chose to interview a 92-year-old female. The reason I chose her was mainly because of her age. I felt that because she's lived such a long time, she had a lot of valuable information to share with me. She also grew up during the Great Depression and also experienced living through World War II, and I was curious to see how those influenced her life. I also wanted to know more about how the social expectations of being a female, during her adolescence and, young and middle adulthood, how that influenced her, seeing as the expectations for women have drastically changed over the years. I was very curious to hear more about that. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll refer to my interviewee as Elle. For this project, the developmental stage I chose to focus on was generativity versus stagnation, or the adulthood phase, as described by Erik Erikson. I chose this stage because I felt like there was a lot of change going on in her life during this time. There was a lot of goals being accomplished and things that she was attempting to accomplish during this time. I actually had a really hard time deciding between which stage to focus on for this project, seeing as Elle had gone through a lot of stuff in her life and, was experiencing a lot of different changes, and a lot of different stages fit, with the things that she was going through. I was, conflicted between choosing the adolescent phase or the adulthood phase, seeing as a lot of things that happened in her adolescence contributed to her success in adulthood, and contributed to a lot of the decisions that she made in her adulthood. But overall, I thought the adulthood phase would fit her life the best, and what we focused on the most during our interview. This stage is described as that adults are involved in investing in their work, families, communities, and future generations, meaning that they're very involved, they feel productive in their work, they feel like they're providing for their families, they're involved in their communities, meaning that, they're involved in clubs, they're outreaching, church, things like that, and, they're, helping future generations to also become productive. And if an adult is unable to be productive, or feel productive in any of these areas, they may only be able to focus on themselves or be really self-absorbed, which means that, they're not going to stay focused towards the well-being of others. They're only going to be focused on what they want to accomplish in life. But that also runs the risk of them becoming stagnant in life, not feeling like they're contributing anymore to society, not feeling like they're, moving forward, and like really feeling like they're stuck in life, which can cause issues and could cause more crisis, which would leave them to feel inadequate moving into the next stage, in Erikson's theory. During this stage, Elle accomplished a lot of goals, which again is another reason why I chose the adulthood phase. One of the main goals that she accomplished during this time was graduating from college and starting her career. This had been a lifelong goal for her. From a very young age, she was determined to become a teacher. This came about after her sister had children, and she helped care for those children. She just developed a love for caring for kids and teaching children, and really, really solidified her goal at that time of wanting to become a teacher. She really attributes this success from going to college and starting her career. She attributes that success to her family and their encouragement and involvement in her life. She said that her family was very, very focused on being close, and they were very influential in her success. They made school a priority very early on and really encouraged her learning and her curiosity for learning. Um, According to one of the studies I looked into for this project, a person's success level can be directly related to how positively or negatively a parent is involved in a child's life. And if a parent is using positive parenting styles versus negative parenting styles, it can definitely affect how successful that child is in life. Which I thought this directly applied to Elle's life, seeing as her family was really, really positive and really encouraging of her learning and her wanting to go to college, and her completing those goals. And then she was able to go on and do those goals and complete them. So I think that definitely played out for her, those positive parenting influences leading into her success. Also during this phase, or this stage, Elle got married and started a family. She also, made family a priority for a little bit of time here. And that'll get described a little bit further, why family became a priority. She was also really involved in her community activities. She was involved in church, a ladies club, and then her and her husband went dancing a lot. She said that she really loved being involved in activities and really felt like she was contributing to society when she was involved in a lot of activities. Some challenges during this time were she had to wear many hats and play many roles. She was a teacher by day for her profession. She had to be a parent full time. She had to provide transportation for everyone. During this time, her and her husband only had one vehicle, so she was responsible for transportation. She was responsible for feeding her family, and then she also was back in school. So she said it was a really chaotic time, but it wasn't a bad chaos. It was just the right amount of chaos, but it was a pretty stressful. But again, some of the accomplishments she had during this time were being able to complete college, getting her first job. She started a family. She was able to stay involved in the activities that she liked to stay involved in, and then overcoming some financial obstacles was a big accomplishment for her and her husband. As far as task persistence goes, looking at a study on how successful a child is in following through with an activity or a task can predict how successful they'll be in their careers or college, or the rest of their life as far as task persistence or following through with an activity or a task. So I think it's really clear here that Elle was very determined to complete school, high school and college alike, to move forward and also follow through with becoming a teacher. So she was very persistent in making sure that those things happened, and was very diligent in getting good grades and, making sure that she was connecting with the right people in life to make sure that her goals came true. The big crisis that I identified during this time was needing to make the decision to stop going to college in order for her husband to go to college then. So in the timeline of Elle's life, she graduated from high school and took 2 years off from high school or from college to save up enough money to be able to go to college. Then she attended college for 2 years, and in that time frame she did get married, and then stopped going to college because her husband needed to go back to school to be able to work. He was in the Navy during World War II, got home, and needed to get a job and needed to complete higher education to do so. So she had to make the decision to stop going to school during this time. But also during this time, she became pregnant and had her first child. So the crisis was having to stop and not wanting to, stop school and not wanting to, and then also having a child and, the dilemma of, should I stay home with this child because of social expectations, or should I go back to school and go against those social expectations to stay home and be, and care for the child and be a homemaker? Some biopsychosocial factors that played a role in the accomplishment of her goals, and the crisis resolution that was happening, where her gender played a role, because there was a big expectation during this time for her to be a homemaker instead of going to college. And the expectation to have a family in the first place instead of working. So a lot of women chose to, graduate college, get married, and just have a family without going to school further. Her social class played a role as a biopsychosocial factor. She came from a lower class family, which required her to pay for college herself. She had really strong family relationships. She believes that, because they didn't have a lot, they needed to lean on each other a little bit more. So that played a role in being able to connect with other people and maintain relationships. And then her family also instilled a work hard for what you want attitude in her. You have to work. Nothing's going to get handed to you for free. So you need to, if you want something, you have to work for it. Education played a role in, she was the first to go to college in her family, but education was always a priority for her as a young child, and her family was always really supportive of that, even though they didn't complete higher education. Race and ethnicity played a role. Being Caucasian definitely gave her some advantages during this time, and being able to actually go to college and complete a degree. That did play a big role in that. And then religion played a big role, because she identifies herself as being very religious. During stressful times, she said that she would look to God for guidance. So that played a strong role in her being able to make the decisions during the crisis time, and being able to resolve this crisis to move forward in the stages. Some oppressive influences during this crisis moment were her gender. Again, being female during the 1950s and 1960s, again, the expectation was to stay at home. There was a study conducted looking at the societal norms that looked at the societal norms during the 1950s and 60s, and how that influenced emerging adults during this time, and looked at how, going against the grain influenced the trajectories in their life, and how also mental health played a role in that. It concluded that those going against the expectations were met with a lot more objection, adversity, and then also were more likely to have mental health issues, because of feeling like they were an outcast and not doing what was expected of them. This did and did not apply to Elle during this time. Looking at her life, she didn't deal with many mental health issues. She dealt with stress really well, and I think she was just so determined to reach her goals that she didn't let those societal norms affect her very much. Socioeconomic class also played a role as an oppressive influence, because she was lower class. They didn't have a lot of money. She had to save for college. Her and her husband had to share a car. She couldn't go to school at the same time that he did, so there was a lot of socioeconomic influence during this time, and it would have been really easy for her to just not go back to school because they couldn't afford it. But she decided to go back to school once her husband was finished and complete those last 2 years for her to obtain her degree. As far as family goes, again, family was a really important factor in her life. Her family, and then, her family growing up, and then her family that she had with her husband, her and her children. Everyone had been really supportive throughout her entire life, accomplishing her goals. Again, community, she was very involved in church. She, during the break time, she was able to work as a preschool teacher at the church, which she said was really helpful in, accomplishing her goals and staying focused towards them. And it just, further solidified her aspirations to be a teacher. She felt a connection with her teachers at school when she was in school, which helped her make the decision to, follow through, complete school. And then social policies and forces, again, being expected to stay at home and not go to college definitely played a role during this time.